Well, I just recorded the whole thing without my microphone on, so I'm going to do it again. So what I did on that last take that I did without my microphone on is I drew a line from the edge of the box right here over 2 inches, and from the edge of the box over 2 inches. I'll explain this later. And what that 2-inch mark's going to represent is the edge of our hinge. So this is an old-fashioned hinge we're going to put on our box. And what that 2-inch mark represents is the edge of the hinge right here. And we don't want to just screw our hinge on like that. We want to create a little recess for that hinge to live in. That's called a mortise or a hinge mortise. So to create that mortise, I'm going to flip the hinge around so the barrel of the hinge, that round part right there, is against the back of the box like this. And that's going to give me a template for that cut. So I'm going to take my knife here and I'm going to gently score around the hinge. Just kind of make a location, and the knife is a little bit more accurate than the pencil. So we're gonna go through, and I'm just gonna, and it's hard to see on camera here, but I'm just taking the knife and not crazy, just gently using the knife kind of as a pencil here, not putting a lot of pressure on it. And that way it gives me a location. And again, you can't see it's so good, but it's there. Once I got it marked out, I can take my square and kind of deepen those marks a little bit. And again, don't put too much pressure on these square or on this knife. You just want to get it so you can see it better. And then again, you probably can't see this on camera, but there's a very light line right there. I'm going to make that line a little bit deeper with my utility knife here, and I'm not putting too much pressure on it. I'm just kind of going down a little bit at a time, and then I'll make these a little bit deeper as well. All right, so that's kind of the outline of our hinge mortise or our hinge pocket right there. So from there, what I'm going to do is use a chisel and make sure it's sharp. If it's not sharp, come get me, and let's sharpen it, because it's miserable if you don't have a sharpened chisel. All right, so now I'm going to follow my own advice here and put 2 hands on the chisel. And what that means is we're going to clamp the box to the table so that I can focus on chiseling and not holding the box down while I chisel. So you might have to reposition the clamps a few times to get comfortable here, but I'll just go ahead and try it right here so you can see it. Okay. So my little score mark's a little bit crooked right here. Kind of wonkus. I'll kind of tune that up with a chisel, but basically what we want to do is take our chisel and we're going to put our chisel right in that score mark, and then just give it a tap. Look at this chisel, somebody tapped it way too hard. Look how bent it is. That's all crooked. It's all crooked. So we're going to tap this down again, and then I'm going to put the flat side of the chisel away from the mortise just for now. And then on this redwood, it kind of splits a little easier, so got to be careful. If you use an oak or a hardwood, it shouldn't chip so bad or split so bad. But if you ever split firewood, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I just tap that around there just to kind of deepen that situation. Now I'm going to pop off the corners here to make a little pyramid looking thing. And normally I would be standing where you are, but it's kind of awkward for me to work like this. And that should kind of pop out of there. All right, so let me get you in closer here. Do you see what I'm talking about? So that's kind of the pyramid look I'm going for here. So I chiseled away a little bit of there. So it's kind of just on the edges. From there, I'm just gonna take the chisel and kind of create a series of little taps. Just like that, and then come through this way and clean up those taps. And those little taps I made were to create a spot for that wood to go so it wouldn't split and cause it to go wild, kind of like a fire break. So that's a first pass. That's not going to be deep enough, but let's just check. So we're going to put that in there. Obviously it's not deep enough. I want to get that as deep or a little bit deeper than the thickness of that that hinge body. So just repeat that process, tap, tap, tap it. And we just got to remove all that material. Until the hinge sits in there. There's different techniques to do this. This is just one. And again, I got my clamp in the way. I usually sit right here, so it's kind of awkward. But here's another little technique we can try. Put the flat part of the chisel down and kind of shave that wood off. The trick with this is if you push too hard, you're gonna split this piece off right here, and it's gonna go flying and not be what we want. So we're just gonna continue on that way. And different wood acts different ways, so this might work good for this redwood, but maybe not so good for a harder wood like oak. But another thing you want to kind of do is run your finger along here, and you want to feel any dips. Make sure it's flat. If you feel a high spot, work the high spot down. You don't want to have that situation where you have an unflat surface. And I would highly recommend that you grab a scrap piece of wood and do a few of these before you do your box. It does take a little bit of practice. I'm not like 100% good at it, but if in the olden days, before electricity and all, I'm sure a person who did this for a living could probably get one of these done in real quick. That's all you did for a living. But still, sometimes the old hand tools are the way to go. Some people will get a little router and kind of route these out. I think that might just ruin it. If there was a better, faster way, I would do it, but I think this is probably the best way for. Still, I mean, just a chisel and a knife here. Okay, so I'm getting pretty deep here, or deep enough where I want to check it. And maybe I went too deep. Uh-oh. Alright, that's feeling pretty good. I'm just going to clean up a little bit of that business here. Get the corners cleaned up. Trim up any little not flat spots I see. I think I could get a high spot right here, trim down a little bit. Maybe take my knife and just kind of give it one of these. check that fit there. Not too bad. So again, when this thing, I'll do the same thing on the top, and then it'll kind of create a nice little recess for this hinge to go in. I'm not going to go too deep right now, but I do want to have the option to go deeper. It's easier to go deeper than it is to go shallower. Okay, so we're ready to put this hinge on. I mean, normally what I do is cut this mortise over here, but I'll just put this one on for now. We're going to use that Vicks bit that we used for the nightstand project, self-centering bit, and then we're just going to put all I'm doing right there is I'm telling the screw where it wants to live. This drill bit's too big for these screws, so I got a little drill bit off camera here. I'll pull off in a second. Let me get these little screws. They're tiny little doodads here. Look at these little things. So it's coming in a nice little Ziploc bag, and we will put that in like that, and like that. Okay, so now we got to drill a hole deeper. So the Vicks bit was there just to find the center of the hole location. Then I'm going to switch to a tinier drill bit and then drill that a little bit deeper. And that way it'll give me a spot for my screw to live. So when you install these hinges, do not use an impact driver, use a screwdriver. So I'll use my little screwdriver that I carry around with me, and put this little screw in there. If you have a little wax on that screw, it helps out a little bit. It helps lubricate the screw. And then, there you go. So I'll repeat that process here, and then I'll show you how to put the lid on.